Good morning, friends and neighbors. I hope you all slept well. It's early in the morning, and well, I guess not. I mean, for me, it's early in the morning, but then again, 9, 10 a.m. is it's not blue collar work. It's not super crazy, but it's definitely at least crisp right now. Um, yeah, it's beautiful here in Minnesota. I'm here visiting for a little while. Definitely a lot cooler than the 85 degrees of Nashville. Um, but yeah, it's nice. Um, I was thinking about the conversation I had yesterday where, I was kind of talking about my experience as a person working a 9 to 5 and being, creative. I think I wanted to elaborate on, a secondary area of that. And it's also the benefit of living simply and living that creative life. Because I think I would have to, say that that's a pretty important aspect of my day to day. It's a pretty broad topic, so I'll keep it short. Um, I am a person that just kind of grew up naturally liking older stuff. Um, I have always liked kind of older, antiquated audio technology and older vehicles and other things like that, and older ways of dressing. Um, you may notice same vest today. That's because it's cold, but I kind of do have a uniform. It was funny as I was making coffee, I was thinking about that. Um, I think that there are certain ways that you can live that promote creativity and kind of promote your own happiness, and then maybe others that like give you short-term happiness but maybe don't give you happiness, as long term, or maybe, it does give you happiness. I mean, I think that the thing that I've tried to make a conscious effort of is to, kind of put resources and spend towards things that I feel like benefit my passions and, speak in that world. So, like, I love vintage guitars. I've spent a fair bit of money on guitars, more than a normal person would spend on, hobbies, so to speak. But I will say, when you play bluegrass and when you spend a lot of time picking up certain examples of things, like, they really do speak to you, and I think that um, I feel like my musical voice is elevated when I spend money on those. Um, and now, of course, it's not to like excess. Like, I'm not buying any pre-war Martins or any of that stuff. But I'm definitely not afraid to save up some money and get what I'd consider to be a small bench boutique instrument. Just because I think that it's just an interest in there. Um, but at the same time, I think that's also accompanied by not living high on the hog in other ways, right? So it's everything is kind of a give and take, and I think that I'd be curious to know how other people do it. But I think that when there's an aspect of there's obviously like have tos for a lot of different things. We all need shelter, we all need food, all those things. But I think beyond that, I've kind of been pretty okay with saying no to other things, like, I use cars as an example. I drive a 2004 2000 Nissan Frontier. It is canary yellow. It's affectionately known as the banana car. And I wouldn't trade that car for anything, man. If that thing needed a new engine, I'd go get it. Because it's just, it doesn't give me problems. It works all the time. It's manual. It transports stuff. And I think that that's, there's a lot to be said for just the actual function of something and having something for use, and then spending more money on other things that benefit your creative voice. And I think that we kind of get into a habit, or at least I've seen people in the past get in the habit of being like, man, I really want to do X, Y, or Z. And they're like, trying to get into it. And it seems like there's a lot of, like, they're spending like they're in the next life stage, but they haven't necessarily entered it. And I think that being conscious, I'm curious how folks strike that balance. I think for me, it's just like I've never inherently been a flashy person, so that aspect of like I want a Rolex on the wrist, or other things like that. It's like, man, I couldn't think to do that, but then again, I don't fault people for doing it. I just see people do that and then at the same time say they want to do something else. I don't know. I think life is trade-offs, but as I think about it more, I will say, at least in my experience, if you can declutter your brain for the externalities of like, I have to deal with this bill today, I have to deal with these other things, not obviously we were never going to escape bills, but like the self-inflicted ones. I think that there's an aspect of like, man, there's a more longer term form of thinking, at least from my perspective, as to what exactly you're building towards, and what exactly you're how exactly your life aligns to those goals. And I will say, as I'm saying it, the advent of social media has really made that a hard thing. Because, man, if I was in front of a camera more, and trying to promote myself, I mean, maybe there is an aspect of like, you got to fake it till you make it, or like flashiness, but like, I don't know, even in that, like, I live, like I said, I live in Nashville, and I watch a lot of folks go down there, and they got their ostrich skin boots, and they got all those other things, and it's like, man, like, those are real nice, but like, I think I would have believed you with Cody James. I think that it's just interesting when you look at it, because you're like, man, it's like a facade, and I think if the facade is on stage only, then that's fine, but if the facade bleeds into your real life and infects your relationships and other things like that, it's like, man, that's a recipe for what I believe to be hardship. So I don't know. I think it's interesting. I'm curious as to how other people live. I've seen a lot of people strike a balance, and the only reason I've come to this, there goes a car. The only reason I've come to this mentality is because I was, grew up in a house where folks were, my parents were setting the simplicity out of necessity. And then like, folks in the creative world, it's just like, there are certain ones where it's like, man, you can always tell what they like. Like, there's that old meme that makes me laugh quite a bit, where it's like, it's Spider-Man with, the right after he gets like attacked, I think, by the Green Goblin, he's got like, holes in his face, and you can kind of see his eyes, and the meme says like, my underwear watching me buy more studio equipment. And it's like, that's easily how I feel, where it's like, you kind of move resources to do those things. And I think that it's obviously not to excess. I will say, in other videos, I do want to talk about like the accumulation of gear and my thoughts behind that, because, man, does it ever get hairy if you're not careful. But I think that if you can identify your process into like a simple A to B, and you can kind of identify what it is that you might be missing, those other things kind of fall into place. Like you go, well, I need X, Y, or Z, so I'm gonna, probably cool it on other things. And obviously, with the financial system as it is, and it's hard to tighten your belt just because people just keep pulling it. I was thinking about that today, just in the idea that, like, I'm always curious as to how folks live, and what they kind of do to support their future. And I feel like there's more folks like me, because I've run into people like me, man. And I'm not, by any means a financial exemption. I'm not somebody that you're gonna want to model your life after, but like there's definitely like a thought process when I'm like, yeah, I think doing those things has led to more benefits than it has harm. So that's the thought. Take it or leave it. I hope y'all have a great day. I'll talk to you in the next one.